Welcome to Matters of DeCorum. I'm Scott Corum. This is what matters to me. I prefer characters that I have rolled up or made to characters that are pre-generated. And I thought I would talk about one of those characters and a bit about the process today. Not the roles and skill selection and whatnot, but the conception process. Because there's a character that I play. I've played him in a number of different genres, and I feel like I'm a better person when I play him. I have an opportunity to play him in one game, maybe two games simultaneously right now. And who knows, 3 if things go well. So, yeah. I have to tell you about a character named Gelt. Incidentally, the ice machine in the kitchen isn't working. We're putting too much stuff in the bin that it feeds into, so it's not loading right. So I had to go and get myself a external coffee today. Local coffee shop, not going to say the name, but it's good. Ask me sometime if you really want to know. I ordered 2 of their 32-ounce iced Americanos, but I asked them to put them in 1 glass. 10 shots. Back up to some of my old standards. Then I came home and I put some hazelnut creamer in it, maybe a little bit too much. It's good, but it's not quite inspirational enough. A very, very good friend bought me this flask. She's a regular watcher. Hey. And I have been in the habit of putting a little inspiration in it from time to time. There. That seems inspiring. I don't do this as a rule. The Death Kraken latte is a more recent innovation in my life. Oh, that's inspirational. We're good to go. A few years ago, my friend Ross wanted to run a cyberpunk game. He actually wanted to write a supplement in Victory for it, which I was all for, because he had some really, really good ideas, and they've kind of blossomed. The game itself has kind of halted. Well, my health, he moved. There's stuff going on. But the group of Manhattan Beach, most of them, made up really, really interesting characters to help playtest through it. I didn't want to make a standard cyberpunk character. There are going to be issues with cyberware, and a number of the rules in Alternate Victory 1 were written to support this game. The grim and gritty healing, and some of the ways that you can complicate having magic or cyberware or whatnot. So I wanted an all-natural character. But he was going to have to compete with people who had cyberware. No magic, no psionics. Very limited powers. There was some genetic manipulation and stuff that people could get done, but it was socially questionable for the most part. We're stuff in martial arts. Ross and I went through the martial arts list for Victory and truncated it a bit. We took out a whole bunch of the way more over-the-top cinematic things. But it left a good, interesting selection. And I really enjoyed this process because taking the system, which is designed to support just anything you want to do, or narrowing it down to this very finite, well-defined setting, it was a lot of fun. I will probably be doing that for some minor setting books or a little something. So I made a character who could compete. And because the group was going to be composed of people from different walks of life with different social standings and different legal statuses, and we were going to be on the edge of things, I wanted to make someone who could smooth things over. Not really a face man so much as someone who could keep the group in a fairly good dynamic and give the people in the group a reason to stay together. At the same time, I wanted him to be dangerous. It almost started with the name. First name, Gelt. This comes from the Roger Corman film Battle Beyond the Stars. Gelt is the name of the character played by Robert Vaughn, the last living assassin on a planet entirely composed of criminals. Last living person on the planet entirely. He shopped himself off-world to go and make a fortune, came back with it, and everyone was gone or mutated. But it was the only place he could hide. I like that character. Robert Vaughn's one of my favorite actors. Rest his soul. And from the Napoleon Solo days and whatnot, Gelt was a really great character and had that level of dangerousness. But because Gelt was going to be a martial art, my character was going to be a martial artist, his last name, I wanted to reflect that somehow. And for some reason, I wanted him to be Romanian. Every so often, I play a character with a Romanian background. I like the mystique that surrounds Romania. I like the family dynamics of Romania and that old Eastern European flair. Yeah, it's where Dracula's from, but, you know, more than that. But being a martial artist, you know, what do you give a character as a last name to reflect that? I went to my Bruce Lee. One of my favorite Bruce Lee statements or sentiments is the concept of being like water. When your opponent expands, you contract. When your opponent contracts, you expand. Water fills the container it's in. You put it in a cup, it becomes the cup. You put it in a glass, it becomes the glass. Be like water, my friend. So, in Romanian, water translates to Vaseri. That just rang true. Gelt Vaseri. I started looking through my mental lists of backgrounds for characters. So he's going to be Romanian, he's going to be dangerous. It may be stereotypical and cliche. I didn't like a lot about the James Bond film Octopussy, but I like the knife throwers. And the whole Scaramanga thing from Man with the Golden Gun, the character raised in a circus with a particular set of skills. I liked that, but it wasn't going to be enough, because Gelt had to be something unique. He has more skills than most other characters I've got. He has a lot more skill points. So, what is a Gelt story? One reason I like to play characters with a Romanian background is I like to take a stab at the accent every so often. Pardon me if I'm not doing it as well as you would like, but I will let Gelt tell his story in Gelt's own words. In the beginning is Gelt and his grandmother, yes? And grandmother owned circus. Small circus, not very popular. Is okay, because Gelt's grandmother should be teaching him something else too. The Vasari family, for many years, best assassins in all country. Oh, I'm gonna step out of that for a moment. Gelt was started in a cyberpunk campaign. At the moment, I'm playing him in a fantasy campaign. So this is a version of Gelt that is tuned towards fantasy. The details remain the same, but well, the specifics remain. The storylines remains the same. The details and specifics may vary, but he's Gelt. Reason Gelt's parents not around. Died in gang war. Assassins have these occasional tiffs to prove who is best, and Gelt's grandmother, she was best. And she teach Gelt. Not so good up close. Grandmother could not do the training for that, but oh, the knives. Gelt loves him some knives. Gelt's grandmother. Oh, the best ever. Still to this day, Gelt cannot match her proficiency. Close, never as good as Grandma. Gelt was young when the men came for Grandmother. It was a legal problem. Someone had died. Grandmother not even do this one. When Grandmother did a job outside the circus, as we called it, you never know it, Grandmother. And that's how I know that she didn't do it, because, well, they knew it was her. Could not have been her then. Grandma was not, well, was well respected in community as a circus owner. Gave to charity, hired people who needed jobs. Gelt, however, fresh, young, up-and-comer, was a revenge thing, was all political. People did not like the fact that Grandmother had standing in two communities. Wanted to take her down a peg, watch her die in prison. No. Gelt would not do this. Gelt takes fall for Grandma. Stepped up, confessed to crime. To this day, I don't know who did it. But, it's okay. Gelt was young. Sentence was harsh. Murder. But Gelt young. And Grandmother get to stay out of prison. Have her last days. Now, you get to most difficult prison in Gelt's country, and you have very few options. You are going to be on the top of pile, or going to be under pile. Gelt not want to be under pile, seemed uncomfortable, not Gelt style. On the same thing, Gelt's only real talent at the time was throwing things very well, but requires a bit of distance, and when you spend most of your time in 10-foot by 10-foot rooms, not to your advantage. So Gelt think. And Gelt take some lessons from Grandmother into strict consideration. Not the throwing lessons, although Gelt very good at them, but some of the other things. The time that Gelt just had tea with Grandmother, little cakes. The way Grandmother saw to the house. Gelt realized everyone there can get almost anything that they want if they're strong enough, yes? You want hurt someone? The strongest can hurt someone. But can you get comfortable in toughest prison? Not before Gelt show up. Found the toughest man there. Their co-ed prison population, men and women. But the one at the top was man. Demonicus Joe. They send 5 prison guards a week to graveyard. Mostly Demonicus Joe. Demonicus Joe is never leaving prison. Ever. Would kill Demonicus Joe, but political things. Couldn't make a martyr out of toughest, most dangerous man there. No. Now, if you want to make a name for yourself, you go up and see if you can take out Demonicus Joe, and probably go out with the other 5 guards. Not a course of action, but Gelt take the meal he is served for a dinner one night. Is not much. But Gelt, he know a couple tricks. He knows some things his grandmother teach him. When times were rough and there wasn't much food around, you make things special, yes? You gather up little bits of what you can find, and you make things right. So one night, Demonicus Joe sit down to his meal, and eat rice gruel, a little piece of dried meat, some stale bread, mug of watered down wine. Cheapest way to make the water safe. And Gelt take his food away. And before Demonicus Joe can kill me, I put down what I had made out of my meal. Was beautifully plated, extremely tasty. The same food, but made so much better. Demonicus Joe, say nothing. Eat meal. But I could tell, he like it. And then, when Demonicus Joe goes to bed that night, lights out, he goes to the bedroll that he had casually tossed on the floor as he did every morning, and found it was neatly laid out, made, corner turned down, little chocolate on pillow. And Gelt is there, smiling, bows, and I leave. In the morning, Demonicus Joe, he finds Gelt, asks Gelt what he wants. I look at Demonicus Joe and I say, I will make you dinners. I will give you turn-down service. Little chocolate on your pillow. You teach Gelt to be you. Yes. Demonicus Joe liked this arrangement. Played to his ego. So, Gelt make dinners. Do turn-down service, and spent days getting crap beat out of him, but oh, Gelt learned a few things. In very short time, no one messed with Gelt. Warden calls me. I am providing comfort to the most dangerous prisoner in the prison. Yes, Warden is going to call me. I am expecting to spend some time in solitary. Maybe worse. It was not good prison. Warden sits me down in his office and says, Gelt, I'm not sending 5 guards a week out to graveyard. 2. Demonicus Joe is not killing people right now. He's almost pleasant to deal with what happened. I say, Gelt is giving him meals. Make him something nice. Put chocolate on his pillow. The warden say, you keep doing that. You need things? What do you want? Gelt makes deal. I tell Warden, you give me books on cooking, books on cleaning, how to make sure things are comfortable and easy. You provide me a few extra ingredients from time to time, nothing on the proscribed list, but nice things, little bits of things, from time to time. Gelt will take the most dangerous prisoners in the prison and make them nicer. If we do this, maybe you shave down Gelt's sentence a little bit, yes? When I told the warden that I would then train people to do what I had been doing, in case I had to leave the prison soon. We had a deal. The Monica Joe told me 5 other prisoners who were the next tier down. The Radisla 6 and Gelt makes them meals and turns down their beds. And when they ask me what I want, Gelt says to all of them, "Teach me to be you." Gelt was sentenced to 50 years in toughest prison in my country. I served 10. Because I took that 5 guards a week who went out to the graveyard and turned it to 0. In the meantime, Gelt learned some things, some tricks. Gelt learned how to be very good at cooking, at cleaning, at making things comfortable, at making people happy. Gelt is best manservant you can find. Cook, butler, I can do all of these things. Any position in a fine house, Gelt can run, because Gelt knows. And Gelt practiced under the worst possible conditions for doing so. At the same time, took what Grandma taught me and built upon it with the skills of the most dangerous criminals that my country had to offer. Well, the ones who got caught. Trained a group of people who did not want to be on bottom of pile to do what Gelt does. I actually waited for a few of them to see how things ran. And then one night Gelt sit down to his dinner and someone take it away and put down a nice plate. And Gelt goes to his bedroll and sees it turned down. Little chocolate on pillow. Not good chocolate, but chocolate. And when I ask the person who did this what they want, they look at me and say, "Teach me to be you." Warden has instituted an official program, I believe. If you want to learn how to do a good and decent job outside of the prison walls, he will cut down your sentence in exchange for your service while you are inside. I may have changed the hardest prison in the country from which I come to a place where you can learn, and where the most dangerous criminals no longer even want to leave. I leave prison to a life of possibilities. The circus work behind me, but the out of circus work ahead of me. A lot of jobs that I can hold down. Glowing recommendations from the warden and the grandmother in the ground. She had passed peacefully a few years after I went in. This was not a surprise. But she had passed not only peacefully, but free. A free woman surrounded by people who respected her. And I thought about going after the people who had brought the charges, who had framed her for a crime she did not commit and forced Gelt to have to go into prison. But somehow all of them are already dead. Go figure. Grandmother was the only thing holding Gelt into his country, and could not live there with stigma, having been in prison. The tattoos. You get respect in prison, you get art in prison. The more respect you get, the more art you have. Better art. The finest artists in that prison made Gelt's body a temple. I do not show my ink. It's easy to know where it comes from. if you see Gelt sink, you're probably not going to be in position to tell anyone about it later. So now Gelt does what Gelt does. You need someone to do something dangerous. Gelt can do something dangerous. You need a little comfort, good meal, warm hearth, your clothes mended and cleaned, turned down surface, little chocolate on pillow. Gelt do. What is not to love? And Gelt. I like to cook. I don't like to clean. If the office behind me looks like it's in a decent shape, that's because my beautiful assistant Devin comes by every so often, usually once a week, if not more often, and cleans it and just straightens things up. I need to redesign a lot of stuff in here. I'm still thinking about that. But when I am playing Gelt, when Gelt is in that list of characters that are in the top few ranks of things that are in my mind that I'm working on, because I'm always thinking about what my characters can and will do, it makes it seem like I'm spontaneous when I'm playing. I want to cook. I want to clean. I want to plate beautiful dishes. I want to straighten things up a little bit. I want to make people's lives a little bit easier. Because focusing on a character who has that as their main focus in life makes me feel closer to him. Makes me feel like I want to have some of that focus myself. As I heal from my sickness, having a character like Gelt in my playlist is a good way to keep some of that focus, that organizing, creating, cleaning, serving, hospitality. I love hospitality. I'd like to be able to host more things or help people host things. I've worked hospitality for conventions before, probably will again. I like making things nice. And so, spending time with a character who also likes to make things nice, yes, puts me in that mindset. I study cuisine. I study how to darn socks, how to dry clean, what a proper butler does to get their job accomplished. I'm never going to be a butler. I don't have the back for it. That's a hard job, especially if you do it well. But, I'm never going to be a champion knife thrower either. I don't have the nerves for it. But I can play one. And, I do intend to practice knife throwing when I can find a place I can do it. Kind of difficult in Southern California, but I'll find a spot. And playing a character with qualities that you admire and aspire to is not a bad way to start the mental process of developing those qualities. You think about it. You focus on it. You try your mental acuity and your personal image of that against the imagination of a game master who is there to get things out of you and plumb that character for their details and depth. In game, I've ran Gelt in the original game for Ross. I used Gelt as an NPC for a grim and gritty cyberpunk game. Oh, geez, I'm going to talk about that one of these days. And I'm currently running him in a fantasy game. And to date, in hours of play, no one has ever seen Gelt's tattoos. No one has gotten that backstory out of him because And Gelt doesn't walk around telling his backstory. Why would he? People are surprised when the guy who makes them a very nice salmon bisque at the end of the night makes someone sprout daggers like a porcupine, but they don't mind because he's on their side. Gelt's story isn't for the consumption of the group. The Game Master generally knows Gelt's story, but it's not something he has to tell people, or should. He's mysterious, yes? And at the end of the day, when people in the game look at something that Gelt does and shrug and say, well, that's Gelt, then I've done my job. I've done my job well, and I'm very happy about that. Well, thank you for following me through this particular exploration of a character. Hope you enjoyed it. I do this with some of my other characters. Gelt's a unique archetype amongst my characters. He's not physically like my other characters. He's not mentally like my other characters. I've only had a couple of other characters who are defined by that accent. And he's shorter. He's blonde. He's dyed blonde. He likes to keep his fashion. Dresses well. But he's not like other characters that I play, and having that unique wild card in there is good for a playlist. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit like. If you didn't like it, give me a thumbs down. That's fine. Feedback is feedback. If you have any suggestions or about things you'd like me to talk about in the future, or comments, if you've got a character that really spikes you and makes you drive forward a little bit, let me know in the comments. Questions, suggestions. Share some stories. I like stories. I love getting comments. You'll love leaving me one. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please feel free to hit subscribe and a little notification bell next to it so you actually get the notifications when these videos come out. And, I like getting my subscription numbers bumped up. Feel free to share this video if it was something that spiked you or might, encourage people that you have in your circles to maybe head towards a character that pushes them ahead a little bit. If you really dug this video, I invite you to hit up my Patreon page at www.patreon.com/DeCorum and consider donating. Anything helps, really, and every donation helps me to do this more often and maybe a little bit better. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. I'm Scott Corum. This is what has mattered to me, and I will see you next time on the next Matters of DeCorum.